A week after the witness disappeared, Ethan lost the little hope he had been holding on to for years. Every lead seemed to vanish before reaching the courtroom, and every person connected to Victor Hale either refused to speak or disappeared without explanation. Then, on a quiet Monday morning, something completely unexpected happened. The prison warden called Ethan into his office and handed him a sealed envelope from the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Ethan's hands trembled as he opened it. Inside was a short letter informing him that a secret financial investigation had uncovered millions of dollars that Victor Hale had transferred to several fake companies only days before the warehouse raid. More importantly, investigators had finally found evidence proving that Ethan had never received a single dollar from the criminal operation. Every payment made to him matched the legal invoices created by Victor's shell company, making Ethan look exactly like an innocent employee who had been manipulated into transporting stolen property. For the first time in 7 years, federal prosecutors agreed to reopen his case. Meanwhile, Emily returned to New York to attend another charity fundraiser organized by her father's company. Walking through the grand ballroom, filled with wealthy investors and politicians, she suddenly heard a familiar name during a private conversation. Two businessmen quietly mentioned Victor Hale, claiming someone had recently seen him meeting with powerful executives outside the country. Emily froze. If Victor was still alive, then maybe Ethan had been telling the truth all along. That night, she couldn't sleep. She opened an old box she had hidden in the back of her closet for years. Inside were photographs of her and Ethan, movie tickets, handwritten notes, and the small silver bracelet he had given her on her birthday. Tears rolled down her face as she realized she had never truly stopped loving him. At the same time, Ethan's attorney rushed into the prison with incredible news. A former accountant from Victor Hale's organization had voluntarily surrendered to the FBI after living under a fake identity for years. Unlike the previous witness, this man brought thousands of confidential files, financial records, and secret recordings that exposed the entire smuggling network. Even more shocking, one recording clearly captured Victor saying, "The kid doesn't know what's inside the crates. He is desperate enough to do anything for his mother's surgery. If the police catch him, he'll take the fall while we disappear." Ethan listened to the recording with tears in his eyes. After 7 years of being called a criminal, someone had finally spoken the truth. But before he could celebrate, his attorney looked at him with a serious expression and quietly said, "This recording clears your name, but there's something even bigger you need to know. Victor Hale didn't build this operation alone. Someone with enormous power helped him from the very beginning, and the name we found will change everything you thought you knew." Ethan took a deep breath as the attorney slowly placed one final document on the table. The signature at the bottom belonged to a man Ethan never imagined could be connected to the nightmare that had destroyed his life. Richard Foster. Ethan stared at the document for what felt like an eternity. His heartbeat became louder with every passing second as his eyes remained locked on the signature at the bottom of the page. Richard Foster, the father of the woman he had loved more than his own life. It didn't make sense. Richard Foster was one of the most respected businessmen in America, a man who appeared on television talking about honesty, charity, and leadership. How could someone like him possibly be connected to Victor Hale's criminal empire? Ethan looked up at his attorney, convinced there had to be some mistake, but the expression on the lawyer's face said otherwise. "We verified the documents 3 different times," the attorney said quietly. Victor Hale's shell companies received financial support from one of Richard Foster's private investment firms. We still don't know whether he was running the operation or simply helping to hide the money, but we know he was involved. Ethan's entire world turned upside down. For years he had blamed Victor Hale for destroying his life, but now he realized someone even more powerful had been standing behind the curtain all along. The worst part wasn't the betrayal. The worst part was knowing Emily had been living under the same roof as the man who might have ruined both of their lives. At that very moment, Emily was sitting inside her father's office after the charity event. Richard noticed she seemed distracted and asked if something was bothering her. Emily hesitated before finally asking the question that had been haunting her for days. "Dad, do you remember Victor Hale?" For the first time in years, Richard Foster's calm expression changed. It lasted only a second, but Emily noticed it immediately. He forced a smile and replied that Victor had once been a businessman who disappeared after a financial scandal years ago. Then he quickly changed the subject, asking Emily about her upcoming engagement party. She nodded politely, but deep inside, she knew her father was hiding something. That night, unable to ignore her instincts any longer, Emily secretly entered Richard's private home office while he was asleep. She searched through filing cabinets, desk drawers, and locked shelves until she discovered an old metal box hidden behind a bookshelf. Inside were dozens of business contracts, photographs, and handwritten notes dating back nearly 10 years. As she flipped through the papers, one photograph made her blood run cold. It showed Richard Foster and Victor Hale shaking hands outside a luxury hotel only weeks before Ethan had been arrested. Emily's hands began trembling. Her father had lied to her. Before she could examine the rest of the documents, she suddenly heard footsteps approaching the office door. Someone had realized she wasn't in her room. She quickly hid behind the desk, clutching the photograph against her chest as the office door slowly opened. Richard walked inside, switched on the lights, and quietly looked around the room. For several terrifying seconds, complete silence filled the office. Then he softly said, almost as if speaking to himself, "I knew this day would come eventually." Emily held her breath, praying he wouldn't discover she was only a few feet away. But what Richard said next shocked her even more. He pulled out his phone, made a call, and whispered, "Find Ethan Carter before the FBI reaches him. This time, don't let him survive."